Welcome to the Crazy Fact Vault, where we unlock history's darkest secrets, exploring the terrifying reality of the Great Plague today. Imagine stepping back into the streets of London in 1665, a bustling metropolis standing on the brink of total collapse. The city was a breeding ground for disease, with open sewers and garbage piling up, creating a perfect storm for disaster. London was incredibly overcrowded, with people living on top of one another, making it impossible to escape the coming invisible enemy. Deep within this filth lurked a microscopic killer, a bacteria that would soon bring the great city to its trembling knees. The culprit was Yersinia pestis, a deadly bacterium that had plagued humanity for centuries before arriving on the shores of England. These bacteria were carried by black rats, which thrived in the squalid conditions of the city, living alongside the human population. However, it was the fleas living on these rats that acted as the bridge, transmitting the deadly infection directly to humans. When the rats died from the plague, the fleas needed a new host, jumping onto people and delivering the fatal bite. The outbreak began slowly in the poor parishes outside the city walls, but soon it began to spread with terrifying speed. The summer of 1665 was unusually hot, which accelerated the breeding of fleas and the rapid spread of the disease. As cases multiplied, paranoia gripped the city, and neighbors began to view each other not as friends, but as potential threats. The death toll began to climb rapidly, turning from a minor concern into a catastrophic event that overwhelmed the local authorities. By the time the epidemic ended, approximately 100,000 people had lost their lives to this relentless and merciless killer. This staggering number represented nearly 1/5 of London's entire population, leaving a gaping wound in the heart of the capital city. The disease struck swiftly and brutally, often killing its victims within days of the first symptoms appearing on their bodies. It often started innocently enough, with symptoms resembling a bad flu, including high fever, chills, and weakness, confusing the victims. Then came the buboes, painful swellings of the lymph nodes in the neck, armpit, or groin, which gave the plague its name. Dark blotches, often called God's tokens, would appear on the skin, signaling that the infection had spread to the bloodstream. The pain from these swellings was described as excruciating, causing victims to scream in agony as the disease ravaged their bodies. As the fever spiked, many victims fell into a state of delirium, losing their minds and wandering the streets in madness. Some were so overcome by pain and fever that they threw themselves out of windows or ran naked into the city. For those who contracted the plague, survival was rare, and families were forced to watch their loved ones deteriorate in horror. As the situation worsened, the social divide became glaringly obvious, with the wealthy having the means to escape the infected city. King Charles II and his court fled London for the safety of Oxford, leaving the capital without its primary leadership. Thousands of aristocrats and merchants followed suit, packing their belongings and abandoning their homes to avoid the deadly contagion spreading within. The poor, however, had nowhere to go, trapped in the city by poverty and the strict laws preventing them from leaving. To leave London, one needed a certificate of health, which was expensive and difficult for the working class to obtain legally. With the rich gone and trade halted, the economy collapsed, leaving the poor to face not just disease, but also starvation. The Lord Mayor remained to enforce strict orders, attempting to contain the spread through harsh measures that terrified the remaining population. Any house found to have the infection was sealed shut, marked with a red cross to warn others to stay away. Alongside the cross, the words, "Lord have mercy upon us," were written, a plea for divine intervention in a hopeless situation. Watchmen were stationed outside these houses 24 hours a day to ensure that no one entered and, crucially, no one left. This policy meant that healthy family members were locked inside with the dying, condemning them to almost certain infection and death.
Get back inside the building
Desperate
now.
to survive, some people tried to escape their quarantined homes, leading to violent confrontations with the guards watching the streets. At night, the silence of the city was broken by the sound of carts and the call that haunted everyone's nightmares. The cry, "Bring out your dead," signaled families to carry the bodies of their loved ones to the streets for mass burial. Bodies were piled onto carts, like common cargo, stripped of dignity, as the sheer number of dead overwhelmed traditional funeral rites. To determine who had died of the plague, the city employed searchers, usually elderly women who were paid to examine the corpses. These women had the grim task of inspecting bodies for signs of the plague, but they lacked any real medical training. Corruption was rampant. Families would often bribe the searchers to report a different cause of death to avoid their house being sealed. This widespread bribery means that the official death tolls from the Great Plague are likely much lower than the true reality. In the 17th century, science was limited, and most people believed the plague was a direct punishment sent by an angry god. Preachers roamed the streets, declaring that the city's sins of greed and immorality had brought this divine wrath upon them all. A comet seen in the sky prior to the outbreak was interpreted by astrologers as a celestial omen, predicting the coming disaster. Desperation drove people to buy useless cures, magical amulets, and strange potions from quack doctors who profited from the mass hysteria. Even children were encouraged to smoke tobacco, as people believed the smoke would purify the air and ward off the infection. As the cold winter of 1665 arrived, the fleas became less active, and the number of deaths finally began to drop. But London's suffering was not over. In September 1666, a massive fire broke out, consuming the heart of the city. The Great Fire of London raged for days, destroying thousands of homes and changing the face of the capital city forever. Many people believe the Great Fire of London burned away the disease, but historical evidence suggests this is actually a popular myth. The fire mostly destroyed the city center, while the plague had thrived in the dirty suburbs, which remained largely untouched by flames. The plague likely died out naturally, but the rebuilding of London with wider streets and brick houses certainly helped improve sanitation. Today, London stands as a testament to resilience, having survived two of the greatest catastrophes in history back to back. Beneath the parks and streets of modern London lie the remains of thousands, a silent reminder of the year the city nearly died. We hope this journey into the past has given you a new perspective on the fragility of life and human endurance. Thank you for watching Crazy Fact Vault. Subscribe for more history, and let us know your thoughts in the comments below.